fellas, what's going on? It's Preacher, and we're finally looking at the Resto Druid. Spent a lot of time with this one to make sure that the feel was right and how the things I can describe to you are great, because this thing is fun as hell. I've loved the Resto Druid for the past... since TBC, actually. Since TBC, since the style became very tree-based. I was a huge fan of tree form when it came into the game. A lot of people hated it. I love it. I absolutely think it's fantastic. Before we jump into the basics like we ordinarily do, there are some dramatic changes to the Resto Druid and how it plays in Walls of Draenor with the new healing model, and how you have to break bad habits. A big part, if you're picking up your Resto Druid, or you're just starting to play it, or you played a bit of it in Mr. Pandaria or Kata, it's all about breaking some bad habits. So there's a few spells I want to go over first and how they've changed and how that changes what you do. Firstly, Wild Growth. I want to point this out straight fucking away. Wild Growth, you need to start thinking of this as a cooldown. Now, a lot of people go, well, it has a cooldown, Preacher. But we used to spam this. We used to spam it. It was a very, very cheap spell that actually did lots and lots of healing. It's no longer like that. Wild Growth is what's going to separate the men from the boys. This is actually so important that there are many discussions going on now about actually doing way less in between Wild Growths to get more Wild Growths out. Because, let me put it this way, you can spam a lot of rejuice throughout the duration of a fight and put off a few Wild Growths, and you'll see that good Wild Growths actually dominate the healing meters at the end, and you'll be like, fucking hell, that thing heals for shit tons, and it does. Wild Growth heals for tons, but it's way expensive, which means it's not a shit spell like Holy Radiance is for the Paladins or anything like that. It's actually a wonderful spell if used correctly. This is what's going to make or break your ability as a Resto Druid. Wild Growth is a very, very interesting spell. It does way more healing when you first cast it, and then it gets weaker over time. That means you need to be timing your Wild Growth for when people are going to get hit. Like, immediately after they get hit, you can very quickly heal those guys up and save their asses before falling behind. Which means we need to think of it as a cooldown. You need to know your encounters, you need to know what this boss is going to do, and more importantly, when it's going to do it. Literally to the second. You need to be able to pay attention to your boss timers and go, oh, Stone Breath is ink in 2 seconds. Let me start casting my Wild Growth, which has a 1.4 second cast. Stone Breath hits, boom, the Wild Growth hits and counters all that. Nullifies boss mechanics. Wild Growth is an amazing spell. Okay, so treat it as an important cooldown. It's expensive. You start spamming this thing, you're going to run into trouble. Which brings us on to the WoD model. WoD is designed to be a really more symbiotic game than ever before in terms of how much damage the DPS and the tanks take. Previously, if people took an absurd amount of damage, you could probably rectify it without being too overgeared. Yeah, you could probably heal it up and go, okay, guys, don't do that. We'll continue with the pull. With the way Warlords of Draenor is designed, if healers have to start really rectifying fuck-ups, then yes, they can heal that damage, but they're going to be so out of mana because their spells cost so much to really rectify big problems that they won't last the duration of the encounter. Yeah, so WoD is really about mana efficiency, looking after yourself until you dramatically overgear things. So something to bear in mind is you can't really spam. A bad habit to break is, oh my god, everybody's dying, I need to start spamming and spamming and spamming. That's going to screw you up for the remainder of the fight, so you need to bear that in mind as well. The next spell I want to talk about is Healing Touch. The better you get your Resto Druid, the less you're going to use Healing Touch. People are so used to Healing Touch being a filler spell. Everybody's cool, tanks tanking, everybody else is good, got to put some Healing Touches in there. No, Healing Touch is now not a very efficient spell. It's not. It's actually way expensive when you start using it a lot. 4 Healing Touches with 2 second casts is like 12k mana. That's a Wild Growth and heals for nowhere near as much. Yeah, a lot of Healing Touch is going to overheal because people treat it as a filler. Your filler is actually Wrath. Wrath now costs no mana, and every time you find the opportunity, you should be wrathing and regenning mana. If you don't need to heal people, start wrathing. There is no excuse to stop casting as a Resto Druid. Never. You can always be doing something. There's always something you can be doing. If the whole raid has to move, that is your job as a Resto Druid to be like, I'm baller at this. I am absolutely kick-ass. Oh, we're moving around? Other healers don't have aspect of the Fox or whatever it might be. I'm a Resto Druid. I have a number of spells and a number of abilities that I can use on the move without it being a problem. Yeah, Healing Touch is essentially, and I've noticed this more and more the more I've played my Resto Druid, something used in combination with Nature's Swiftness, so bear that in mind. The next change is Life Bloom, and this goes in combination with Healing Touch. Life Bloom is now no longer stacked. It used to be 3 stacks, now it's just an instantaneous 3 stacks, basically. It's just one spell. You cast it and it's on. This means that you don't have to be Johnny on the spot with refreshing life bloom. As you may know, your single target spells refresh your life bloom. You see that there? Now, previously, because life bloom was 3 stacks, a lot of you will have this habit of spamming healing touch to refresh life bloom. You don't need to do that anymore. You can let life bloom drop off. It's fine. It's okay to let it bloom, do its heal, and just refresh it. Yeah? You can do that. You don't have to be, oh my god, life bloom's going to fall off. I need to spam fucking healing touches and regrowth like a bitch to get that working. You don't need to do that anymore. Life bloom is a very simple, very cheap spell, 1,000 mana. Yeah? It's 1,000 mana to refresh it. Boom. If you do naturally refresh it with a regrowth or a healing touch with nature's swiftness or in combination with clearcast, that's fine. But you don't have to be like, I have to do it, or I will die, and my healing will suck, or I have to spend 3 global cooldowns getting it back up again. It's not like that anymore. Healing touch is a very nice spell. So, having said that, let's take a look at some talents, because we're going to obviously use them throughout the remainder of the video. At level 15, I would certainly recommend Displacer Beast, and the better you get with this, just the better your life you're going to have. Movement isn't a problem for Resto Druids, but you see something coming out your way, boom, you need to be able to get the fuck out of there. Displacer Boost, or Blink, basically, is what it is. You can blink through various mechanics that will cause you to die. Think about waves, Bracken Spore Mythic, waves coming out of Imperator Margok, all that kind of stuff. All this kind of stuff you can nullify with Displacer Beast. Get used to using it, get used to having it keybound, and use it on the fly. These other spells, you don't really need. Feline Swiftness, yeah, I mean, it has its benefits of moving quickly, but if you can't move out of it normally, you can certainly blink it, is my thinking on it, yeah? If it's something that you need to move from so quickly that you need 15% movement speed, you could probably just blink out of it, okay? Just bear in mind, Displacer Beast puts you into cat form, and you want to pop out of that back into the glory that is tree form immediately. Level 30, Ysera's Gift is kind of a must-have. Although some people will argue the others, Ysera's Gift just passively just does its job and does tremendous amounts of healing. I believe the last one I did was Chromog. We look at healing done here. Nope. Is it a wipe? Maybe. Chromog. Chromog, healing. Oh, there we go. You can see Ysera's Gift there, just putting out a wonderful 500,000 healing. Passively, didn't have to worry about it. No big deal at all. Wonderful little spell to put out there. Level 45, pick whatever you want. Level 16. Now, this is where it gets fun. As I said, you have choice with the Resto Druid. You can tailor your Resto Druid to do whatever you want. And Force of Nature is the weakest. Your choice will be Soul of the Forest or Incarnation. Now, I will say Incarnation is probably going to be used in like 90-95% of cases because it's a wonderful cooldown. Very, very cool. Why? Not only does it allow you to use epic wild growths, instant cast regrowths, and rejuves, they are dramatically cheaper. That means Incarnation is actually a mana-saving cooldown. Yeah? Mana-saving cooldown. Incarnation is wonderful for mana saving because your rejuvenation becomes so cheap and so powerful that you can spam it on a raid, especially if you're taking Germination, we'll talk about soon enough. The Incarnation, especially in early gear where you're not out gearing things, Incarnation is a wonderful mana cooldown. Wonderful mana cooldown. And you should treat it as such, which means if a fight's 7 minutes, you want 2 Incarnations. Ask your raid leader, I want 2 Incarnations. Why? It saves me mana. While I'm under the effects of Incarnation Tree of Life, not only do I put out tremendous healing, but I'm actually saving mana while doing it. So it's important that I use this cooldown. I can't have it sat there for 5 minutes. I just can't. Excuse me, I still have a cough. Soul of the Forest! Now this is getting more and more benefit. More and more benefit as less people use Rejuve. Yeah, people are starting to rejuve less, and because we talked about earlier with wild growths. Soul of the Forest reduces the cast down your healing touch and increases the healing of your regrowth and rejuve by 100%, and increases the healing of your next wild growth by 50%. And I already told you how powerful wild growth is. This is getting a lot more looks. As mana becomes less of a thing, and Incarnation's mana saving properties become less interesting, 50% increased healing on wild growth? Holy shit, dude. Holy shit. So that's every time you cast Swiftmend. So bear in mind, as you progress, you might start wanting to think about Soul of the Forest. Also bear in mind that Soul of the Forest, which goes in combination with Rampant Growth, by the way, we'll get there, is more of a single target healing spell, unless you're using it purely for the wild growth, okay? So Incarnation tends to be more AoE based and mana efficient. Soul of the Forest, less mana efficient, but great single target healing, and now with higher gear, amazing AoE healing through wild growth. So something going on there. At level 75, whatever you want. Mighty Bash is a terrible spell, but all of them are terrible, so unless you have a real need for Ursul's Vortex, a 50-second cooldown stun, it's laughably bad. It's so bad, Mighty Bash, but whatever. At level 90, your choice will either probably be Heart of the Wild or Nature's Vigil. Now, I do prefer Nature's Vigil. Initially, when I first started doing the Resto Druid, I was Heart of the Wild through and through. This is heroically amazing spell, blah, 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 blah. But I've come to realize it's less useful. Why? 6-minute cooldown, so you're going to use it once per fight. It gives you 35% increased healing. Now, this means that you want to generally use it in combination with either Tranquility, our major healing cooldown, or Incarnation. And then you have to ask yourself, did I need 35% extra healing power there? Or was I kind of padding meters? Or was I overhealing like an absolute slut? And if you are, Heart of the Wild kind of loses some flavor there, it's got to be honest. It's nice for some DPS. I want to put it in context. If you used Heart of the Wild with Tranquility, it's like 3.5 to 4 million extra healing. Now, unless that fight has one specific moment where everybody's getting pummeled to the ground, Heart of the Wild kind of loses some flavor. Nature's Vigil, however, 1.5 minute cooldown, can be used in combination with Incarnation, Tranquility, depending on how spread those things are. Does some damage. Splash damage going around everywhere, and also does some splash healing. Very nice. You can put it in combination with the other abilities, and you get a nice little boost there all the time. Very, very cool. Not amazing. As you can see, 281k from Nature's Vigil on Chromog, which is not, it's not going to blow your dick off, but it's kind of better than Heart of the Wild. It's better than the other choices. It's as simple as that. It really is just better. Heart of the Wild seems to be way overkill. It's a massive cooldown, so judge what the fight demands is what I'll say to you there. Judge what the fight demands. If it's Butcher and you need to DPS at the beginning, Heart of the Wild. If it's got some mega moment of distress, then Heart of the Wild might be better for you. At level 100, Moment of Clarity is the weakest here. Not going to choose that. We're going to choose Germination, and more popular is Rampant Growth. Now, I say more popular as gear levels improve because it's what you use with Soul of the Forest. Soul of the Forest is based off Swiftmend. Rampant Growth removes the cooldown of Swiftmend. Okay, you can see how these two work really well together. Great synergy, as does Germination and Incarnation, okay? You generally pair these up because Incarnation gives you them super cheap rejuves. Germination allows you to put 2 rejuves on a target. When you are spamming rejuve out, it's nice to be able to put 2 of them on without having wasted a spell, yeah? That's very, very cool. It's nice to have the tanks with 2 rejuves on. Very handy. Rampant Growth is something that takes a little bit more skill in combination with Soul of the Forest and managing both of those effects, but becoming more and more popular. Get to do some very nice spam healing and top-off healing. Druids aren't great at emergency top-off healing. We're not. It's important you know that. We're not great at it. We have Nature Swiftness and we have Swiftmen. If you choose to talent that way, then you'll see some good results. But bear in mind, this combination of Soul of the Forest and Rampant Growth becoming increasingly popular because of mana concerns and how powerful Wild Growth is. Glyphs. Excuse me. Glyph of Regrowth. Increase the critical strike chance of your regrowth by 40%, but no longer does healing over time. The reason I choose this glyph is pretty simple. Regrowth is your go-to spell when you have clear casting, okay? When you have clear casting like this, your nice green leaves pop up, you go regrowth, boom! It's nice to make sure that thing crits. You don't really care about the hot because you have hots coming from all over the place. That's not the issue. If you are going to fire off that regrowth, you want a nice big fast fat crit on your tanks or whoever might need an emergency heal. Boom, regrowth. It's a very cool spell. I love the fact that you nearly guarantee the crit. Not a guarantee, but assuming that that instant free heal is also a critical strike. Very cool. Very, very cool. Wild Growth, as I said, Wild Growth is super important. Treat it as a cooldown. 1 additional target is very, very nice. Really nice. I'd pick it up if I were you. And Glyph of Stampeding Roar. I can't live without this thing. Stampeding Roar is an amazing cooldown, and a great druid will be using it at least a couple of times a fight. We'll be finding places to use it, and you should be doing that as well. Find somewhere to use Stampeding Roar. If you are going to use it, make sure everybody's getting it. Yeah? Nobody in the world, nobody complains about having a speed increase. So find a place to use it and glyph it, so make sure everyone gets the benefit. This minor glyph, Glyph of Sprite Mushroom, is actually very important. You're going to want to keep the mushroom efflorescence down 100% of the time, and in the best place possible. And casting it on people is really shitty. You want to be able to place it. Why? Let's talk about why. That's why you're here. That's why you don't trust the written guides. Let's say this is our boss, okay? Let's give it a skull for emphasis. Where's our tank? Here. Where's our melee? All here, and then maybe some ranged all the way back here. Now, if I pick and choose a melee and say here, then all this space of efflorescence around the back here all gets wasted. Nobody's standing here. Nobody generally is around here doing anything. So all this space is just wasted. If you're going to efflorescence an area, you want to make sure people are in it. It's very important, and trust me, a good druid knows better than the other people. What you want to be doing is make sure you place it in a way that, yay, my tank will get that, but more importantly, all this area is for people to stand in, move around from abilities and effects, while still being in my efflorescence. If it needs to be quickly transferred, picking and choosing someone out of a pack and trying to select somebody and then popping a mushroom is a real pain in the ass. What you actually want to do is, oh shit, the range need it. Boom, down, on top of the range. Yeah, super fast, super quick, no issues at all. That's what you want. You want to be in control of your sprouting mushroom. Take that. Now, a very brief overview. There's no rotation for a healer, obviously. The big things you need to know is if you're in a raid is find out when your tranquility and when your incarnation are going to be used. Make sure your tanks are asking for iron bark. 1 minute cooldown. Super cool. 1 minute cooldown. Tanks, if your tanks aren't asking for iron bark, slap them in the dick, call them a knob, and tell them, hey, ask for my iron bark. It's a 1 minute cooldown. I can use it like 6 times, 7 times per fight. It's important. Ask me for it. Tranquility is also a mana cooldown. It costs 6,000 mana and puts out ludicrous amounts of healing. Make sure you're getting the most out of it. It's a 3 minute cooldown, 7 minute fight, 2 tranquilities. At least 2 tranquilities. The same with incarnation, because you will have more mana and do more healing. That's good. More healing, more mana. Awesome. Very, very cool. In general, you're going to want to keep your life bloom up on the tank. Remember, you don't need to spam refresh it. Rejuve or Wrath. If people are going to get the benefit of the Rejuve, then use it. It's a lovely, cheap, very powerful spell. More important than that is keep your mushroom down in an appropriate place, usually on the melee, but not always. Not always. Bear in mind your nature's swiftness. You want to use that whenever possible. Again, a 1 minute cooldown, should be getting 6 to 7 out depending on the length of the fight. And it's free. More mana. We're looking after our mana. Use nature's swiftness. Don't save it for that super oh my god moment. That's not your job as a Resto Druid, is to be like, I need nature's swiftness for the uber life save. It's not your job. You look after a whole group of people. Yeah, if you're looking after the tanks, you're probably going with something like Rampant Growth and Soul of the Forest anyway, not Nature's Swiftness as a reliable backup. It's a mana-saving cooldown. Treat it as such. So while our tanks have got their Rejuves on, if you take Germination, try and keep 2 up, and Life Blooms on, we're going to be looking at the rest of the raid. If someone like dropping 70%, then give them a Rejuve. Yeah? Give them a Rejuve to make sure it has time to tick. But bear in mind how long this spell is. If someone needs like fucking 10k healing, don't Rejuve them. Somebody else can do that better than you can. Other than that, you're looking for opportunities to wild growth. If you see your wonderful, wonderful clear cast pop up, then use your regrowth with it. Let's talk about Harmony. Harmony is very important. You get it after doing a single target heal. Increases the power of your HOTS. Yeah? Very cool. Want to be doing that. Very much want to be doing that. Keep track of Harmony, but don't worry about it too much. A lot of people put too much emphasis on this for me. Your clear cast will proc more often than not to allow Harmony to naturally stay up. Just be aware you want it up. If you see it dropping off in some fashion, then keep it up. But you can see clear cast procs regularly enough in order to make sure Harmony's up. And you also have Nature's Swiftnesses going on. And not only that, but your Swift Mend actually gives you Harmony. Wait for it. 10 seconds. Swift Mend. Oh, look. Harmony's refreshed. So if you're not using Swift Mend and your clear casts and Nature's Swiftness, if you've ignored all 3 of those spells, not only are you really bad, but your Harmony's dropped off. But it should naturally stay up anyway. Even a worst case Swift Mend's on cooldown, it keeps it up with a good 6-second window left over. So easy to do. Don't worry about it too much. Just be aware that Harmony should be up 100% of the time. Very, very cool. Life Bloom, you can let it drop. No big deal. Other than that, spells to ignore are things like Genesis. Genesis really has no place. You can take it off your bars if you wish. There are maybe some moments where Genesis is good. If you're not sure what it does, it consumes all your rejuvenation effects from your party and applies Genesis. Genesis heals for the amount equal. It's like a mega heal, but it's just not the way Resto Druids work out. So be aware of that. Other than that, use your cooldowns. Nature's Vigil, 1.5 minute cooldown. Try and pair it up with things like Wild Growth, Tranquility, and your Incarnation, where that splash is going to be done all over the place, yeah? Very, very cool. So you want to be doing that. Remember, it's all single target healing spells, yeah? So you need to be using it. Just use it in combination. Use it in combination with other abilities. Just bear in mind how it works. If you're going to be Wrath spamming, use some Nature's Vigil with it, and you'll have a good time. Let's jump into some gameplay, because yeah, Resto Druid and rotation and spells, not something I could just describe while stood in a garrison. Alright guys, thank you very much for listening. I hope you watched the gameplay video. Thank you. Bye-bye.